Hello everyone and welcome to a new book video. I'm sharing a big spring book haul with you today because I've got quite a few new books lately that I wanted to tell you about. Lots of these I'd really like to get to reading either this spring or summer. So there are some fantastic books that I'm eager to share with you. Let's begin. The first one is this latest publication from the British Library. It's part of their Women Writers series, and it's The Spring Begins by Catherine Dunning. I'm really looking forward to this one. I've actually started it already, and it's beautifully written. I'm enjoying it a lot, and it's a bit unusual because it's a book that was published in the 1930s and it's set in a beautiful house in the English countryside. But the story actually focuses on three working class women. One is a nursery maid who's employed by the household. The other is, I think, a scullery maid. And then there's a governess who lives in the village. And I believe she teaches the children of the vicarage who are friends with the sort of grander children of this house. And it follows the story of these three women and their love lives. In spite of the title and the lovely cover, I think this book is actually set more in the summertime, but it would make a lovely transitional read from spring into summer. So it's one that I've been eagerly awaiting since I first heard that the British Library were publishing this one. And like I said, so far I'm enjoying it. So I'm looking forward to keeping reading this one. And then a book that I pre-ordered from Persephone Books is Crooked Cross by Sally Carson. This sounds so good and it only recently arrived. I haven't started it yet, but I'm really eager to begin this one because it's had some rave reviews already and it sounds so interesting. Again, this book was published in the early 1930s and it's set in Germany, and it really is a warning bell about the horrors of Nazism. And I think it will be a fascinating read, so one that I'm very much looking forward to. I've just started the very beginning of it with a very sort of atmospheric Christmas scene, but Laura Freeman, whose writing I really admire, has written the introduction to this book, and reading that has made me even more excited to start it. So yes, very much looking forward to that one. Then I ordered two of the latest Angela Thurk titles that Virago have republished, Jutland Cottage and County Chronicle. If you're new to Angela Thurk, then definitely start with the first one in the series, which is High Rising. Virago have been republishing her books. She wrote a lot. It's a very big series, and they've been sort of republishing them out of order. And the last ones they did were a few years ago, so I was really happy to see two new ones by Angela Thurk from them. So I've been collecting these over the years as they've been putting them out. I do enjoy Angela Thurk's writing. If you like that sort of gentle village country saga type book, then you might like to give hers a try. But like I said, start with High Rising. But I'm glad to have added these ones to my collection. And then I always enjoy the writing of Anne Tyler. I think she's a very easy to read, enjoyable novelist. So I had her latest book sort of on my wish list, and I got this recently, which is 3 Days in June, and I would like to read this in June. It sounds like it would be just a fun, nice read for that month. It's about a mother whose daughter is just about to get married, and the action occurs over 3 days: the day before the wedding day itself, and the day after the wedding. It sounds like quite a bit of drama happens as the wedding is imminent and everything is a bit complicated by the mother's ex-husband turning up at the scene. But I think it will be a fun read and one I'm looking forward to enjoying this summer. It's a nice slight read as well, so I think that will be great for one evening in June to enjoy. And then I'm a big fan of Anthony Horowitz's books. I really like The Magpie Murders by him, and that was followed up with the Moonflower Murders. I always slightly forget the name of the second one, but Moonflower Murders is the second one, and then he's just released a third book in this series called Marble Hall Murders. You might have seen the TV series as well of Magpie Murders, and they did one for Moonflower Murders too. They're quite fun, but I also really enjoy the books, so I was very excited to get this. I haven't started this one yet. It's a bit of a whopper, so I'm not quite sure when I'll get to this one, but either a bit later in the spring or looking ahead to summer. It's always quite nice to have a good mystery lined up for the summer, I think. So I'm sure that this is one that I'll enjoy. I think he's just such a good writer and he's very inventive when it comes to mystery plots. So I'm looking forward to getting to this. And I think this follows a similar structure to his other books where there's almost like a book within a book, a story within a story. So that's quite a fun layered reading experience. So I'm looking forward to that. Before I share my next book with you, I wanted to tell you about my offer code for serious readers. I'm so thrilled to say that serious readers are very kindly sponsoring today's video. As you know, I'm a huge fan of their reading lights. I use my high definition floor light all the time, so I'm so pleased to have an offer code to share with you. My offer code is Miranda, all capital letters, just Miranda. And if you use that offer code, you will get £150 off any of the high definition lights by serious readers, as well as free shipping within the UK. So although the free shipping only extends to UK residents, the £150 off extends to international orders as well as UK ones. Reading is a huge part of my life. I read for work as well as for pleasure. So for me, it's so important to have a great reading light. And I love my serious light because it's made such a positive difference to my reading life. I've had it for well over 2 years now. I use it every day and I absolutely love it. I live in a really old house and this house doesn't have very many overhead lights. It doesn't have any overhead lights in the living room or in my bedroom. And those are the two places that I read the most. And those rooms tend to be pretty low lit. So it's made such a wonderful difference to my life to have such a good reading light. The light quality is one of the things that I think really make the serious lights stand out. The high definition lights by serious readers feature something called daylight wavelength technology. And this essentially replicates the daylight spectrum as closely as technically possible. So when I'm reading with my serious light, it feels like I'm reading in a pool of natural light, or at least as close to natural light as you can get. I also love that I can adjust the width of the beam of my light as well as the brightness levels. So when I'm reading in the evenings, I can make sure that I get just the perfect amount of light that's good for me. Anyway, if you also would love to have a great reading light in your life, then do take advantage of my offer code. Again, that's Miranda, all capital letters Miranda. And if you use that offer code, you will get £150 off any of the high definition lights by serious readers, as well as free shipping within the UK. I'll put all of the details as well as my offer code and the relevant link in the video description box just down below, so make sure you check out all the information there. But now, let's get back to my video. Okay, and on to more books now. So I've mentioned this one on my channel already, but I wanted to talk about it again in this book haul because I'm so excited about this. I have started it and then I ended up putting it down because I wanted to read some other things, but I was so enjoying it and I really want to get back to it. That's Bookish by Lucy Mangan, How Reading Shapes Our Lives. I'm a huge fan of Lucy Mangan. I adored her first biblio-memoir called Bookworm, and in fact, I chose that as my comfort book club read last September, so I know quite a few of you read that one in September, and this is a sort of follow-up memoir to that book. So it starts off just where Bookworm left off. Lucy Mangan reflects on her reading life, and she picks up the threads when she's a teenager, sort of about to enter adulthood, and then it goes up to the sort of present day, I think, this book. And I just love how she reads. She loves so many of the same authors that I do. She also loves to own books, just as I do, and she's deeply attached to her books. So, I mean, so much of what she writes just resonates with me at a very deep level. So, I really do love her writing. And yes, I just think her biblio-memoirs are fantastic. So I know that I'm going to love the rest of this, and I wanted to highlight it again. And then this is a non-fiction book as well that I just got recently, having read some really incredible reviews of this book, and it's by another writer whom I really admire, and that's Anne Seber. This is her latest book, The Women's Orchestra of Auschwitz, A Story of Survival. This is obviously going to be quite a difficult read. It's such a harrowing story of an orchestra that was formed from about, I think, 40 women in Auschwitz. And I think it will be a tough read, but such an important read. And like I said, I admire Anne Seber's writing so much. I think she's brilliant, and I've read so many excellent reviews of this that made me really want to read it. So I think you definitely have to be in the right kind of mind frame to read this type of book, but I'm really looking forward to getting to it because I think it's such an important story and one that hasn't really been told before. So I am really pleased to have got this one. And then a book that I got secondhand just recently is this one. It's called Roundabout Brighton Coach Office by Maud Egerton King. And I actually got this because it's illustrated by an artist I really admire. Her name is Lucy Kemp Welch, and she was probably most famous for illustrating a very early edition of Black Beauty. And she was an incredible artist of horses in particular. And this is another book that she illustrated. And I recently wrote an article about Lucy Kemp Welch for Seasons of Story, and that made me want to sort of look up if there are any other books that she illustrated that were just sort of affordable. And I found this one, and actually it looks really sweet. I've just read the kind of beginning, and it's set in Victorian times. It says, "To the memory of my father, Henry George Hine, in whose character, under another name, I here try to tell others all that he so often told me about the people and places of his youth, and to whose tender heart, retentive mind, and happy gift of telling, I owe whatever is worth in them. I dedicate this handful of true stories." So I just think it's a really fascinating idea, all about Brighton, but from many, many years ago. And I just think it sounds interesting and sort of read that I would enjoy. I like the chapter titles, which are things like My Pretty Sister, and The Brighton of My Boyhood, The Coachmaster, Miss Patton's School, Our Gentleman Boarder, and A Day of Punishment. And obviously too, it has some lovely black and white illustrations. So yes, it's just one of those little books that I thought sounded interesting. So I was pleased to get that secondhand. And then a small book that I had on pre-order is While There Is Tea, There Is Hope. And this one is a really interesting sounding book. It's by Alex Johnson, who wrote Studios of Their Own and Rooms of Their Own, which I've showcased on my channel before. And this is a little book about the importance of tea during World War II in the UK. And of course, tea was rationed during the war. But it was still so important in terms of keeping up morale. And this book just looks at the role tea played during World War II. And it's just filled with really interesting little facts and anecdotes. There are even a few recipes in here. And you know how much I love my tea. And I'm also interested in the history of World War II. So I just couldn't resist this title, and it just looks so interesting. So a little book that I think will be a fun read for me. And then another small little book, but was a wonderful surprise gift from a friend of mine, is The Prayers of Jane Austen. And this is a collection of, I think, 3 prayers that she wrote. And of course, Mum and I recently visited Jane Austen's house at Chiltern, and I saw one of her prayers framed in her bedroom, which was really special to see. And I actually picked up this little book in the gift shop, but I decided not to get it because I was getting some other things. And I kind of regretted, though, that I hadn't got it. And then it turned up in the post from my lovely friend. So that was amazing. And it's got really lovely illustrations all through it. So it's just very sweetly done. And it's so nice to have a copy of these 3 prayers that she wrote. So I was thrilled with that. Of course, I got this book very kindly sent to me by Batsford, A Jane Austen Year, celebrating 250 years of Jane Austen. And this has been compiled by the staff at Jane Austen's house, the curators there. It goes month by month through the year. And it's filled with wonderful photographs of the house during all seasons of the year. I think whether you're visiting the house or even if you're unable to visit it, this book definitely brings a bit of Chawton to you and Jane Austen's world to you. So I think it's such a special book. It's got information about Jane Austen's life. There are quotes included by Jane Austen, information about the house and her novels, as well as her life. So it really is a real treasure trove for those of you who love Jane Austen. So I've been really enjoying reading through this one. I love that they've taken a seasonal approach with the book too, sort of going month by month through the year, but exploring Jane Austen's life and the house kind of through the year as well. I think that's such a nice idea. So yes, I really recommend this one. And there's also a lovely podcast that accompanies the book, which I've mentioned a few times before, but I'll link to it again in the video description box because it is a very nice accompaniment to the book. And then my friend who sent me the Jane Austen prayer book also included this beautiful book in her package as well, which was so lovely of her. It's The Story of Flowers and How They Changed the Way We Live by Noel Kingsbury, illustrated by Charlotte Day. The illustrations are just gorgeous. in this book. It's the type of book that's just so lovely to flick through because the illustrations are wonderful, but it also holds a lot of fascinating information. It's just a nice book to kind of pick up, maybe to have on your coffee table, because it's fun to just find out quite a lot of quirky information about plants that I never knew. And I've been really enjoying sort of dipping in and out of this one, and of course enjoying the lovely illustrations. But with everything starting to bloom now, it's just nice to focus a bit on plants and learn a bit more about them as well through this lovely book. So that's a lovely addition to my shelves. And then talking of plants and gardens and Jane Austen, I got this book, Jane Austen's Garden, a botanical tour of the classic novels by Molly Williams, illustrated by Jessica Rue. I just got this recently, but I've been, again, very much enjoying dipping in and out of this one. It's such a fun idea. It looks at gardens and the sort of history of gardens in the time of Jane Austen, and it looks how plants and gardens are used in her novels, but it also sort of gives a wider context to the history of gardening. And there's just interesting information provided all through the book. It's beautifully illustrated as well. And I think for Jane Austen fans as well as garden fans, this would be a great read. So I've just been enjoying it a lot because I like how she takes sort of little aspects of the book and then fills out the history around a plant, for instance, or the history of the sort of greenhouse and things like that. There are also little activities that you can do, and yeah, it's just a lovely little collection. So I've been enjoying this one. And then I was very kindly sent this book by the publisher as well, Forgotten Churches, Exploring England's Hidden Treasures by Luke Sherlock. And it's another gorgeously illustrated book, so intricately detailed. And I've been really enjoying dipping in and out of this book as well. It was fun to discover some churches and chapels that Mum and I have visited that are in here. Most recently, the Watts Gallery Cemetery Chapel is in here, and we visited there for the second time actually, but we haven't been for years, but we visited there again when we went to Surrey at the start of April, and it was lovely seeing it in here too. So I've been really enjoying this one. And then some sort of very nature and spring related books that I wanted to share with you. Spring is the Only Season by Simon Barnes, How It Works, What It Does, and Why It Matters. This looks like a really interesting nature book. Simon Barnes has quite a quirky writing style in some ways, but I've been enjoying it so far. And I mean, I love the spring, and I love his enthusiasm and joy in the springtime too. And he writes about the importance of spring, but he doesn't only share spring in terms of the natural landscape and climate. He shares how spring is so important in literature, for instance, music, and just sort of across the board culturally, especially within the Western world. And I think it's just so interesting. So I've been enjoying this one. And another book that I got, which I haven't had a chance to start or look at all yet, but I think will be really good, is Of Thorn and Briar, A Year with the West Country, Hedge Layer by Paul Lamb. Paul Lamb has an incredible Instagram presence and following. If you don't know him, then I really recommend taking a look at his Instagram. And he's just got such an interesting story to share. And I think hedgerows and the sort of process of maintaining or making a hedgerow is something I've come to obviously appreciate a lot more since being in the countryside. And I'm just fascinated to learn more about this technique that's really an art from this book. So another one I'm looking forward to. And then finally, I couldn't resist the beautiful cover of this book, as well as knowing it's going to be an amazing read. And that's Bird School, A Beginner in the Wood by Adam Nicholson. And I think this one looks really lovely. The cover illustration, by the way, is one of my favourite modern artists called Clive Hicks Jenkins. It's a flowering nest is what the painting is that this detail is taken from, and I just think that that's glorious. But this looks like a really interesting book. I actually like the way it's sort of structured a little bit differently from how you might imagine, in that it doesn't go kind of season by season or month by month through the year. It actually is categorized in terms of birds. So it starts with bird school learning and birdhouse absorbing, but then there's a chapter on wrens, and then songbirds, robins, tawny owls, ravens, buzzards, tits, blackbirds, migrants, man, and then Perch Hill, which I think is where Adam Nicholson is based. So I'm just looking forward to getting to this one as well when I have the chance. There's some wonderful photographs in here of the birds, which is lovely to see. And the book really describes Adam Nicholson's developing his habit, I think, of watching birds and learning more about them. And it's something that I'm interested in at least learning a bit more. I'm afraid I'm very ignorant at the moment. So this book looks great as a kind of beginner's introduction to the world of birds. So I thought that this looked like an excellent read. But anyway, those are all of the books that I wanted to share with you today. Do let me know if you've read any of these or if any of them are on your wish list. I'd love to know. But thank you so much, as always, for watching my video. And as always, too, extra big thanks to those of you who pressed the super thanks button on my last video. I so appreciate your support. I hope those of you in the UK have just had a lovely long bank holiday weekend, and I hope you all have a lovely weekend ahead. But I'll see you again very soon. Goodbye.